For a select group of musicians, this shop in Blanchard, Oklahoma could become a musical shrine. The musicians are banjo players, and to the discriminating player, the imperial banjo is joining the ranks of the elite. They are not mass-produced instruments. The husband and wife team make no more than 150 imperial banjos every year. By keeping the quantity low and the quality high, Ty and Mona Piper have created a selective demand across the world. Ty Piper is a former cowboy who developed a love for bluegrass and banjo music. Believe it or not, that was in New York. His love for the music made way for a hobby.
When we got married, it was a hobby of mine. And shortly after we got married, we decided that we should try to make a business out of it. And at that time, she was interested, I was interested. I was teaching her some of the skills I'd already acquired, and she had learned those. The fact that I'm able to make a living at it and enjoy doing it at the same time, I guess is what everybody calls the dream job. You know, doing like fishing for a living or hunting for a living. I enjoy building instruments. It was actually the hobby grew into the business sort of thing.
You don't just walk into Imperial Banjos to peruse and buy. All the completed banjos are already sold, as are all the uncompleted banjos into next year. It's all because of the craftsmanship and care that goes into each banjo. But more importantly, it's the quality of what comes out. Piper doesn't even own an imperial banjo himself. He has owned several, but it seems every time he finishes one, someone else comes in and buys it. That's the problem with supply and demand. Charles Schnitzer, Action 4, in Blanchard, Oklahoma.
you come and tell a few folks here about you?
There are always a winner out here. Let's give a real big applause for all the winners.
What goes into your chili?
Well, a lot of good beef, use nothing but brisket, and a lot of good spices, and a little Budweiser beer. You gotta have Budweiser in it.
Tears I cried, and then I knew the worst.
Sonny Hayes gained statewide attention when the State Court of Criminal Appeals ordered him executed last September 14th. After a series of federal court hearings, Hayes was sent to the Veneta State Hospital for psychological testing. Doctors found Hayes suffering from delusions of grandeur. After several months at Veneta, he was returned to death row. Last month, doctors in McAllister found Sonny Hayes in need of further treatment. He remains in Veneta State Hospital. Hayes' attorneys say their client's mental state has improved enough to allow them to proceed with his death sentence appeal.
Now he's in a mental state that he can communicate. He can give us assistance and can tell us things that we were never able to find out before about his case. And we've compiled those things and we put it into an application for post-conviction relief, which we'll file later on this month over at Muskogee.
Will Sonny Hayes ever be executed?
I feel 100% confident that he'll never be executed. And I actually feel quite confident that he'll be granted a new trial, and that if he is represented competently at that trial, he'll be found not guilty, because I don't think he did it.
Hayes' appeal will be filed after the upcoming state primary. Scott Wallace, Action 4. One of the most dangerous places to be is around your own home. The Consumer Product Safety Commission says that more than 77,000 people are hurt while mowing their lawns each year. You know, most injuries occur when people forget to turn off the engine like I just did. They reach down and try to fiddle with their grass catcher, and they get their hands or their feet caught in the rotor blades. Well, a new government regulation will put a stop to a lot of those injuries. This lawnmower has a dead man clutch. The safety device stops the mower blade within 3 seconds after you release the machine's handle. All mowers manufactured since July 1st have a similar mechanism. What do you think about this new safety device?
I think it's good. It'll save a lot of toes.
What do your customers think about it?
They like it so far. There's a lot of them complain on extra stuff to wear out, but I think they've got it engineered for the last.
The new safety device is expected to add between $20 and $120 to the price tag of a new mower. Whether you think it's worth it or not might depend on whether you still have all your fingers and toes. Scott Wallace, Action 4.
The first to seek approval of a new hospital in Yukon was a company called Humana. Its proposal was 125 beds at a cost of $22 million. A series of public hearings were held with concerned citizens, all testifying that Yukon was growing by leaps and bounds and a new hospital was needed. But the Health Planning Commission said no, that a definite need was not demonstrated, even though people living in the Yukon area had to drive for 30 minutes to get medical care in Oklahoma City. Humana has now taken that decision to court. Now another company called LifeMark will apply with the commission, saying its proposal is different.
We're going to submit Bella an application for 96 beds of an acute care, primary type facility. We do not wish to offer the ultra-sophisticated healthcare services that are available in Oklahoma City, some 10 short miles away. We don't feel that duplication is in the best interest of the public. We don't feel that duplication is the best interest of the healthcare community.
Asked how the Health Planning Commission might receive LifeMark's application, the director said,
all I can say is that no applications have been received. If the rationale presented in any new application is identical to those rationales presented before, I can only say that the Commission has a rather remarkable record for consistency.
The Commission's record so far has been to say no. Bellishaw, Action 4 at the Health Planning Commission.
Past record would...
It was just about 1 year ago when more than 30 Midwest City sanitation workers were fired after staging a sick-out. The men and one woman wanted to join a union at the time, but city leaders objected. Workers felt the only way to improve working conditions and get more pay was to join the union. Today there is more unrest among the garbage collectors. Some say they are lucky to be part of a three-man work crew because the two-man crews are supposedly working themselves to death. The City Council has agreed to investigate the complaints by sanitation workers. Eugene Hardridge was one of those fired last year, but has since been reinstated. He told Action 4 working conditions vary from one crew to another.
It gets a little hectic in the summer, you know, when you have to go out with two men. And yard trash is heavy, but it's a pretty good department to work for. That's if your crew show up, you know. It's all in the men you work with. So I have two good men, so they show up. They need to hire maybe about 3 more extra men, you know.
For those unhappy about their workload, city officials are not promising them things will get better soon. However, there is a guarantee that the city will not turn its back on legitimate complaints that could lead to bigger problems. Ed Stewart, Action 4 in Midwest City.
Forty-two-year-old Kaynell Hayes of Norman made an appearance at the Cleveland County Courthouse today for a mental competency hearing. The woman was released earlier this week from the Cleveland County Jail after a court reporter picked up a note calling for help that the woman had apparently tossed out her window from the jail cell. Officials had forgotten about the woman, and the mistake was not noticed until she had been in jail almost 3 weeks after she was scheduled to be released. Although no one has taken credit for the confusion, the district attorney's office admits that it's an unfortunate mistake.
She evidently became concerned about the amount of time she had been in jail, and from what I understand, she threw a message out the jail window, which was found by a court reporter here on the courthouse lawn.
And if that wasn't found, conceivably, could she have been in there much longer?
That's possible, yes.
Confusion still exists concerning Ms. Hayes' mental state at the time of arrest. And according to her attorney, Fred Schaefer, the woman was repeatedly beaten by fellow inmates, and that fact contributed to her deteriorating mental condition.
She had a partial plate in the lower part of her mouth, which was completely knocked out by another inmate. She now has, I think she's got a large percentage of her teeth missing on the lower part of her mouth. She lost her job as a result of being incarcerated in the jail. She was supposed to report back to work on August 2nd, and as a result of her failure to do so, has been terminated. So no doubt she certainly has been subjected to quite a bit of damages as a result of this.
So for now, the story ends here at the Central State Hospital, where Kaynell Hayes has voluntarily committed herself for psychiatric evaluation. But the big question still remains unanswered. Who is responsible for her extra time at the county jail? And why wasn't it detected any sooner? Kurt Autry, Action 4, Norman.
Using the McKinley Park area and surrounding homes as the site of the new proposed school is a controversy that's been brewing for months. Many of the residents simply don't want to move, and that's exactly what they told the board at Monday night's meeting.
This is what you propose to take away from my mother. You're going to pay her to leave her memories, her social life. She may die because of it. I don't know.
It was to be the board's final vote on the issue, but they didn't have all the facts, according to board member Shirley Darrell.
Perhaps it may be in the best interest of everyone concerned that we digress enough to have sufficient information on all these different options that we've heard. Now, we've heard them before. What concerns me is that we have concluded that renovation is more expensive, but we've not had any cost figures on it. We've concluded that to tear the building down and build another one on the same site might be more expensive, but I've not seen any cost figures on it.
The school board's decision to defer the issue simply prolongs their final vote. But before anyone will lose their homes, a final decision must be made by the school board, the park board, and the city council. Debbie Mash, Action 4 at the school board.
Got any other injuries any place that you know of?
This is our
fourth or fifth incidents of the same thing. Last time it hit a car. The other incidents didn't hit any other vehicles that I'm aware of. And this time we come close to fatality.
Oilfield theft. It has cost drilling companies working in Oklahoma an estimated $60 million a year, a cost that has passed right on to the consumer. In an effort to try and curb the problem, the Oklahoma legislature this spring passed a bill requiring all equipment to display its original manufacturer serial number or a new one that will be issued by the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation. Oklahoma oilmen have only a little over 2 months to register or face a felony charge of $1,000 to $10,000 fine or 5 years in jail. While officials admit the new procedure might be looked upon as a nuisance, it is a necessary one to stop the lucrative business of oilfield theft.
Yes, we really think this law will be helpful because it's much like an automobile. In the past, oilfield equipment, it was not illegal not to have a serial number on it. Basically, someone could steal a piece of equipment, knock the number off of it, sell it or just possess it, and there was no way we could trace the equipment or prove ownership. And now it makes it much like a car where you have to have a license tag or a VIN number where it has to have this number on it, and we can now trace the equipment and also prove ownership. So it will prove very helpful to law enforcement.
The OSBI feels the new marking policies will give legitimate owners a chance to protect themselves against the problem of theft and possibly reduce prices at the gas pump. Kevin Ogle, Action 4.
I'm Sherry Sellers. There may be yet another way of stopping oil theft. An Edmond-based company has come up with a method of marking the oil itself, making it identifiable with microdots.
The microdots are tiny pieces of microfilm. On each dot, there's a list of information that completely identifies the owner and the property, down to every tank. They're placed in the oil tanks and pipelines inside a styrofoam egg that dissolves in 20 seconds. The dots themselves burn off in the refining process. It's hoped that these little dots will end oil theft's reputation as the toughest crime to prove. Companies will now have a way to show ownership and 3 ways to catch the thief.
On the lease, when they're loading the oil, they can be caught in transit, or they can be caught at the refinery. Now, the refineries that are working with us, we supply a filter with quick disconnects, and they can filter every load that comes in if they wish.
This week, the idea will have a chance to prove itself. According to the company's first contract, the microdots are going to be placed in tanks in Ardmore, Oklahoma. It could be the beginning of the end of oil theft. Sherry Sellers, Action 4.
This is the National Furniture Liquidators doing business at the Myriad Convention Center. But in this case, the term liquidators does not mean a business is folding and liquidating its merchandise. But that had to be cleared up in district court before the operation could continue, since the owner has no intention of closing down his furniture store. County officials questioned if he could use the word liquidation when advertising. Even after the court appearance, there is still confusion.
And it's not clear to myself, to my attorney, or to the judge at this point whether or not we are indeed, if we would be classified under your state law, as a liquidation sale. Because we're not actually going out of business ourselves. We are simply disposing of the inventories that we have bought from other companies who are liquidating.
Rasmussen says he would still like to do business in other cities around the Sooner State, but doesn't know if he can. And as of now, he has no intention of removing the word liquidators from his company's name. Ed Stewart, Action 4 at the Myriad.
For the past couple of years, former U.S. Senator and Governor Henry Bellman has been content to till his wheat fields near Enid and to serve on the boards of directors of several companies. But like the Roman farmer Cincinnatus, Bellman has once again answered the call to public service. Senator Bellman will head the welfare agency during the next legislative session. However, he promises to keep the post non-political.
One of the opinions is that it would be a great disservice to Republicans as well as to the state, and I think to the Democrats, if this agency were to fall into the hands of someone who wanted to politicize it, and certainly I don't intend to do that for either party, and the governor's made it very plain he doesn't want that. So I would hope Republicans as well as Democrats can see the merit in getting a non-political director.
Senator Bellman pledges to begin his new job with an open mind. He says he'll make recommendations to the governor and the Welfare Commission about how the welfare department should be run only after he's had plenty of time to get to know the agency. Scott Wallace, Action 4 at the state capitol.
The state would be allowed to allocate monies to these regional transportation districts as it now does to highways, so that in the future there would be a legal provision in our Constitution that the legislature would not be in any way impeded from providing funds for transit districts.
Flames were pouring out of windows on the second and third floors when the men from Station 6 pulled up. Flames weren't the only danger. The chief driver noticed bricks flying off the structure, and he quickly warned the others. 2 additional companies of firefighters were called to help. The men fight the fire at its source. Upstairs in the building, where the men face intense heat and the very real possibility of getting hurt. Luckily, no one is injured. There had been previous small fires in this building, and it's in the process of being torn down for urban renewal.
We have transit that hold up in houses like this, and they try to cook and so forth, and a lot of times it starts a fire. Then you have normal children setting fires, so there's several different ways that fires like this can start.
Today's fire was set in 2 different parts of the house. Arson investigators aren't sure who set it, but they're still investigating. Brian Sweet, Action 4, Northeast Oklahoma City.
We will be able to get through this.
The Oklahoma City Council chambers was packed today with Planned Parenthood Association supporters, and there were quite a few people in the chambers against the organization. City leaders were to vote on whether or not Planned Parenthood should receive more than $48,000 in community development block grant money. Planned Parenthood says it qualifies for the grant, and the money would be used to renovate its building. But first, the organization wanted to point out to opponents it is not an abortion clinic.
The major goal of Planned Parenthood Association of Oklahoma City is to help families plan when to have children. As I have stated previously to this council, my agency neither provides nor encourages abortion. In fact, if Planned Parenthood were able to accomplish its goal, the need for abortion would disappear.
And this is an organization from their own literature that advocates teaching children things contrary to what their parents would teach. And I don't believe the taxpayers of this county are for that.
Until Planned Parenthood can convince opponents abortion scenes like this don't occur at its offices, there will be those who think otherwise. Planned Parenthood says abortion has never been the one single answer to its clients. City leaders had a tie vote on the grant proposal, so the matter has been deferred for 3 weeks until an absent council member can break the tie vote. Ed Stewart, Action 4.
Consistency with federal requirements.
I think that we should debate some of these issues, and I think there needs to be more than one debate. I've had over 30 joint appearances with my primary opponent. I think they were very helpful in delineating the issues in the primary campaign, and I think a series of appearances, perhaps say one a week through the general election campaign, would be extremely beneficial to the voters of Oklahoma.
The Burnett's are lucky. They found an apartment 5 months ago. They have no intention of moving. It would be almost impossible to find another apartment in Norman. They're all full.
They're calling saying, do you have any vacancies? And we say, no, we don't. Will you have any in the near future? No. Do you know anybody that does? No.
You won't find a for sale or for rent sign along the residential streets either. The way the economy is, and interest rates, and the growing Norman community, OU really has a problem on its hands.
We're working with the USA Commuter Center, which is a student association organization, and they're working very hard, working with about 30 to 50 students a day coming through the office, at least through the past 2 weeks. It's beginning to taper off now that school started, but there are students coming in from all over the world.
We had got a copy of the transcript in the wintertime, thought apartments would be rather plentiful, and so far we haven't found anything.
Patricia Catapult just moved to Norman from Washington, D.C. When she arrived, she discovered there was no place to live. Patricia Catapult, her husband, and 5-year-old son have ended up living in the dormitories. The dormitories are comprised mostly of freshmen, so you can imagine how out of place the family must feel.
My husband's in his 30s, and here we are living with a group of 18-year-olds. Rather different from what we've been used to in Washington.
The school has been pleading with the community to help by renting rooms or dividing up living quarters. But right now, with a 22,000 student population, Norman just doesn't have 22,000 different places to live. The situation at OSU and Stillwater isn't much better. Apartments and houses are needed, and there's such a demand for them right now, someone could make a lot of money fulfilling that need. Bella Shaw, Action 4.
The Lawton City County Health Department is busy these days. Besides the normal crush of back-to-school shots, the department has had to inoculate nearly 100 people against type A hepatitis. The health department has confirmed 6 cases of the highly contagious disease this month. Health officials are especially worried because some of the infected people work in Lawton restaurants.
The only way it can be transmitted is fecal-oral contamination.
Okay, so they didn't wash their hands properly after they went to the restaurant.
Poor sanitation techniques. Okay. And so, you know, there may not have been anybody exposed, but the potential is there that if, you know, they didn't have proper sanitation techniques, good hand washing, then they could have possibly exposed someone.
The Lawton City County Health Department will get the results tomorrow on whether 2 more food handlers have also been stricken with hepatitis A virus. If tomorrow's tests are positive, then the health officials here will have to decide whether to further warn the public to stop this outbreak from becoming an epidemic. Scott Wallace, Action 4 in Lawton.
It's none for you today, since you had some yesterday. None for you, huh? You're not Sherry or Starla, are you? Get cold on you, baby. Take a deep breath. Blow it out. Blow, blow, blow.
We're using every staff available, pull them off on all other projects, and using them all, and it's really a big strain. It sure is.
And how about an end? Do you see an end in sight?
Surely. We've given close to 7,000 children immunization since August the 9th, so surely we'll be getting most everyone immunized pretty soon.
The show kicked off as many do in this nation with the national anthem. But this one had a little something extra, an American flag and state flag on the ground, as well as in the air.
Watch, ladies and gentlemen, get your cameras ready as they make their landing.
The jumpers and their flags caught the audience's attention, but these men grabbed it. The members of the Confederate Air Force had the only warplane in the show. But when you've got a 1944 World War II B-25 bomber in mint condition, you don't need any other warplanes.
There's actually about 10 people involved in this airplane here, and we all share in the cost and the maintenance of it. And we've always liked these old type airplanes, and we located this airplane up in Ohio in 1979, and we just went up and flew it back, and took about a year to restore it. It's kind of, I guess, a nostalgia type feeling, flying the old airplanes that actually won the last war that the United States won. We haven't won a war since World War II.
The simulated air raid took many of the spectators back to an era they didn't know. But just like the pilot, they enjoyed reliving it. The Elk City residents liked it so much, they hope the first annual air show will become a tradition. Sherry Sellers, Action 4 in Elk City.